So again, this is CyberSense version 8.6 update, which was announced yesterday. My name is Jim McGann from Index Engines. I'll take you through this. So it was announced yesterday, April 10th in 8.6. So we continually support, if you think about backups or snapshots, there's different workloads that customers have. There's updates to these workloads. There's different platforms. So we have a team of people that are actually testing against these different platforms and testing against these different workloads. So it's a continual process, especially backup. Commvault and NetBackup and Spectrum Protect continually update their software, and we have to maintain that level of updates. In this release, we're supporting Red Hat 9.2. We're also supporting Postgres for scanning of corruption, so that's a new workload for us. We revamped the user interface, which I've been showing you, that dashboard. Our goal is, a lot of times when a customer gets attacked, what they should do and what they do may be different, but what they should do is, one, they should call the FBI. Two, they should call their insurance company that would help them, with recovery. And if they have sometimes an insurance company or they have a post-attack recovery organization that will come in. A lot of times the vendors, Dell has a very active post-attack recovery service. I mean, the beauty of those organizations is they have just specialty expertise that understands how to do this. But our goal with the dashboard and revamping it was like, let's make the user experience very intuitive and easy to understand. They can do it themselves. So if you're a small school system or a small regional government, you don't have those resources, you can come in here and say, I know exactly what happened and what I need to do. And then the biggest thing we've added is this new threshold feature. I mean, I was kind of doing a little threshold bashing on the beginning of the presentation that other vendors, had thresholds is not good enough, but our customers have asked us to add it as an added feature. So it's not being used to detect corruption due to ransomware. It's used to detect more suspicious activity based on threshold alerts, which I'll talk about. So it's kind of taking everything we've done with CyberSense has been geared towards after the attack. So you've been attacked, here's what happened, here's what you need to recover. Threshold is taking us pre-attack, saying, hey, there's suspicious activity that we're seeing here that may or may not be bad actors, or maybe an insider threat that's doing something malicious that you should investigate. And that's we see a lot of the value of what's in the CyberSense product is the security teams kind of leaning in and saying, hey, can you give me this information? Or, can I specifically monitor certain locations or executables to make sure nobody's touching that stuff? So this is a new dashboard. I'll show you that in the demo. So clear. So the thresholds, and I'll show you this in real time, is looking at things like change files. So again, it's looking at the checksum of the files. Again, content-based thresholds. A lot of the vendors are looking at the metadata-based thresholds, like changes in file size, additions, deletions, things that are easy. This is looking at checksum values and seeing how they change. Looking at the file types, looking at deleted files, looking at entropy. So you're basically monitoring it. You can look at it either by number of files change it or percent change. So, actually a lot of customers, when they do POCs, we're doing, hey, let me encrypt a bunch of files or delete a bunch of files and see if CyberSense sees it. What they're trying to do is mimic what ransomware does, which is, unless you execute ransomware, you're not going to do a good job at that. So, this is kind of one of the requests from customers is like, can you just give me some of these monitoring tools so I could just start encrypting or deleting files? And I just want to see like a pulse or a heartbeat here that's something.
So Jim, question, Max Motilar from Tech Unplugged. Do you have a kind of forensics engine, or do I get it that this is kind of adding on top of the capabilities that you have at the moment? So to kind of go beyond that and start identifying, users which may be making those kind of malicious or suspicious changes?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really do that today, right? We don't really have the activity logs analysis. We have the ability to do it.
Well,
thanks. Go right to the product.
Jeff Barrell, Chief Product Officer. So what we really want to do is the security team, some of the companies we work with have very sophisticated and very large security teams, and they know their environment much better than we do. So while machine learning can apply, the same kind of thinking to a vast, different array of environments, the security team at that company know exactly what's supposed to be happening in their environment. And so what we want to do was to give them the tools and the product to make it smarter, about cases like that. So if the security team knows this data never changes, right? This is an archive, it's never going to be modified, then they can tell our product, watch this. If anything happens, let us know right away, right? Or, if you're expecting a certain kind of usage pattern in a particular area of the business again, and it's a critical area of the business, those core databases, for example, you can look, you can see a history, and you can see any kind of anomalies that are going on. So really, one of the core things we want to do with this set of features was give those security teams the ability to make our products smarter about their business and get more information on it. So, thanks, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the thresholds, though, let me just finish that point, is it's going to look, since CyberSense is looking at data over time, it's got 30 days of this is what typical activity looks like, typical deletions or modifications of file. So it knows the patterns of behavior of a company. And then, if you go with the thresholds and you point to the finance server, for example, and say, I want to monitor that, and I see the typical, change rate of files, and then suddenly you see spikes. It's like, that's weird. What's happening there? So it's not going to give you, say, hey, that's a ransomware attack. It's just say, hey, there's unusual activity that you really should look at. And if that spike happens like on a Saturday, there's lots of changes of files going on Saturday on the finance server. As Jeff said, the security team say, just give me that information, and it'd be helpful.
It's one of the things I like from your new threshold features to detect unusual modifications from bad actors or insider threats. Again, insider threats are in two buckets. The malicious insider threats are negligent. So when you have the malicious, they obviously want to do something.
Right.
And they can disguise themselves as bad actors from outside the organization. Is that something you could detect if they are trying to penetrate the organization from outside or typically inside?
Yeah.
Also, the negligent obviously is human error. Somebody just uninformed and doing something stupid, kind of thing. So are you able to pinpoint that and advise around that?
I don't think so, right? I mean, we don't really have the specific, unless we're monitoring the event logs on who's doing what, I don't think we have that information, do we?
No, but we enable the company to, like you said, to do the forensics.
Yeah, all of the data that we have is like, hey, this happened, and we'll give you the data points of all the information, like what happened to what, and they could use other analysis tools to do that. It's not trying to replace a lot of the security tools they have today. But
of course, but as you mentioned, the insider threats, and that's a very big one for organizations. I deal a lot with the human factors of cybersecurity within organizations.
Right.
So you're not able to pinpoint if it's coming from within the organization, the insider threat, as they're disguising themselves as bad actors, or within an organization?
I don't think so. Yeah, not today. No, today. So one of the other features that we added, which is new, is called the Cyber Sensitivity Index, or CSI, which is kind of a nice little abbreviation to that. And that's kind of the heart and soul of CyberSense. So that is exposing the actual suspicion of ransomware corruption. And when you get to a level of 50% there, it's going to send an alert. CyberSense will say, hey, there's corruption going on with 99.5% confidence. Customers can change this and tweak this and increase the sensitivity or decrease the sensitivity. I don't think that's probably a good idea. I think you just leave it by default. But what we've added this is it's kind of the heart and soul of CyberSense. But what a lot of customers, when they're doing POCs or initially testing the system, they'll go in there and they'll do some kind of activity that'll mimic a ransomware attack, but it's not enough to get an alert because it wasn't a legitimate ransomware attack. So what they commonly do is they'll take 100 files and put them in a zip folder and say, hey, they're encrypted, so that's what ransomware does. It's like, that's not really what ransomware does. So this would show you kind of a little pulse, a little heartbeat saying, yeah, CyberSense saw it, but you're not getting an alert because it really wasn't ransomware. So it's kind of really for POCs and testing, but customers wanted access to this so they can throttle and kind of tune the alerts here. So that's new in this product. It's kind of the internals of the product, but we're exposing it through this new threshold interface.
So I love that you brought up alerting. Scott Fugate with NetSmart Technologies here. How do we get data out of the tool? Once you fire an alarm, how do we integrate that with our existing incident management systems, or get that to a SOC that we may have?
Yeah, so we have a syslog output of all this information. I'll actually show you that in the demo and what you get out of there. So you're going to get, when you have an attack and there's 50,000 files that were corrupted, you can extract all the information about it. So all the metadata properties, the IP addresses, the exact time and date of modification of those files. And that's where we get a lot of the security teams leaning in and saying, give me all that information. And that's usually with the larger customers is integrated with their SIM or their source systems automatically. So, CyberSense gets an alert. You can automatically export all this information, the detailed forensic analysis into their SIM or their source systems, and they're just going to take it from there and do analysis, whatever they do with it. But all the data is available, and that's an automated process that most of the larger customers use. They don't want to look at these dashboards. They just said, give me the data.
Gotcha.
And, yeah. So again, this is new here. We've always had listings of the backups that were bad. This is more of a easier view. I'll show you this. That shows you, hey, here's the alerts, here's the backups that are bad. This is another new feature that's more of an advanced threshold feature. So as Jeff mentioned, so the concept of, and what a lot of customers do is they create the concept of either decoy files or honeypots. So, it's very, I like honeypots. You just feel warm and fuzzy with Winnie the Pooh, right? But it's, you go in there and you can create a folder on your network that says confidential network passwords, right? So you just put the bait out there for these guys, and they search. You can find keywords that they search for: confidential passwords, the obvious stuff. So put that there and put 5 files in there, 5 dummy files, and you could use this to point to that folder and say, hey, if any of those files get modified or deleted, send me an alert. Nothing bad's happening. It's just an internal bad actor or somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing. Or you can point to maybe the router software and say, hey, monitor these DLLs and executables, and if anybody goes in and encrypts that stuff, let me know right away, and get an alert on that. So it's more of a proactive monitoring, not necessarily ransomware, but it's just bad behavior that's happening inside the network. And this has always been something that has been available in the index. And part of what Jeff was talking about earlier is that the platform we have is very easy to add these features on top of them and extend it. And customers are asking for this. Is like, you have that level of knowledge, just give me this kind of alerts if there's suspicious activity going on. So again, the addition of honeypots or decoys, the additional Sentinel files, these are files. This is an application that should never change. And if anybody changes any of these files, let me know. Because if you're a bad actor and you want to go in and shut their network down, go to their network software and start encrypting files in there, encrypt a few DLLs, and you shut them down. So this will notify you proactively that there's a problem here.